Communication, because this one's really, really important. They're all important, but healthy spouses communicate their needs as adult. The two most common, I say two very common, but in my experience, just my own counseling, these are the two most common unhealthy communication patterns in marriage. And okay, I got to do a real crash course real quickly on transactional analysis. If you can look up here, you see these P's, that's for parent. The parent is everything we were taught as a child. It's the automatic messages we have. They divide parent into two halves, all right? You have, this is one person, that's another person. The critical parent is the part of us that we heard, don't do that, brush your teeth, don't cross, look both ways, the commandments. The nurturing parent is the, come here baby, let me see your boo-boo, let me kiss it, I'm so sorry, I'll get you a Band-Aid, I'll get you some cookies. That's the nurturing parent. Then the adult is someone like Spock or Data if you're a Star Trek nerd like I am. It's the person who, the adult is when we're in an ego state where we're taking in data or information and we make decisions based on that information. So if I'm really cold in here, I'm going to put on a coat. I'm taking the data, making a decision. If I'm really hot, I might take off my coat. The data make decision. All the time, when we're driving a vehicle, ideally, someone's going faster, that information makes us go to the right. Most of us there. Child is also in two halves. The child ego state has what's called the adaptive child and the reactive or the rebellious child. The adaptive child is the normal, when it's the child is in the emotional state. That's the emotional part of us. And the adaptive is the normal one. So if my dog died, I cry. That's the child state. If my spouse or friend died, or I was beaten, or I was abused, or I was hurt, or I was betrayed, sometimes something as small as I was really excited about a movie and they were sold out of the tickets. And I feel this, oh man, dadgummit. Even the small things, that's in a normal child state. Very, very healthy. Every single time you laugh, you're in your child state. Every time you feel joy, you're in your child state. Every time you want to tell a joke or laugh at a joke, you're in a child state. Every time you cry, you're in a child. Those emotional times. And why is it called that? Because that's what children do, right? They're just living in the moment. The reactive child is different. That's the rebellious child. That's the part that says, hey, let's skip work and go to the movies. Lisa, let's skip church and go on vacation. All the time. I got to kick her out of this place. She's the opposite. Please go home. The reactive child is that rebellious child. That's the part of that wants to break the rules, wants to whatever. And a little footnote, in transactional analysis, the idea, of course, is that every individual, all of us in this room, we have all three ego states in us. And we're in one or the other every single moment, every thought. So we do alternate between these three. But in general, the general healthy person, most of the time of the day, is supposed to stay in their adult more than not. Not like 90%, but let's say 70, 80% of the time. That's one who goes to job, gets the job done, send those emails out. Responsibility pays the bills. When you are more unhealthy, you take on one of these upper parent or child role, or even adult. If you stay there all the time or a large portion of the time, that's called a script. Just like in a movie, Tom Cruise has a script and he plays a character. And they have names for all that. So the nurturing parent who stays there all the time is called the rescuer. And you have on and on. Adult is called, they call the adult professor or Spock or Data is actually sometimes what it's called. On. The rebellious child is called the black sheep. They're the ones who are always in the back of the room. They're always smoking, doing the, yeah, man, I break the rule. It's the, yay. And then the critical parent is the critical parent. They're the ones who, or there's other names for them. So that's what happens. And we're all there at some time. So right now I'm talking to you. I'm lecturing. This is a lecture basically. And so I'm in my adult state. I'm conveying information. I imagine the majority of you right now in your adult state because you're listening to the data, you're processing it, and so forth. Some of you feel upset inside because I'm touching you right in the face and I'm making you nervous, like a lot of y'all kicking your legs, kicking your legs and feet, about 4 y'all are. And so you're in your adaptive state, so you're very anxious, so you have anxiety inside. A lot of women also, particularly younger girls, when they have longer hair, they stroke their hair a lot. Those are self-soothing techniques. So some of you are nervous right now, and so you're showing it by your kicking your feet and so forth. The rebellious child, the ones, I don't want to come here, I can't wait for this to be over with. I see this in sermons all the time. The critical parent, all the time. Critical parents are the ones who can't wait to critique me when I'm finished. They can't wait to find out what's wrong with me, and they'll tell me right away as soon as the sermon or the lesson's over. They'll send me the email, and what you should have said, here's what you should have done, here's what you should have. They can't wait. They stay in that script all the time. When they come, you just know they're going to critique you. The nurturing parent stays there all the time. They're so sweet all the time. They can't wait to come give you a hug, encourage you, tell you how great you are, just love on you, and so forth. So people in that state at different times, and we vacillate. And in this 1 hour, hour and 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you can vacillate to all these different parts. Okay, in spousal, does that make sense enough? Can I move on? Elaine, do I need to? So it's healthy to move in the different ego states. It's healthy, it's good, yay. And sometimes you what?
Sometimes you can help each other.
Sometimes you can help each other. That's right, and that's right. So for example, but again, this is back with that need and desire. Elaine can call and say when she worked in a very, very high stress job right before we moved here, and she just let me have it. This parent, some parents are just, they are psychologically unstable. And I've seen these emails, they have huge disorders, and I'm not trying to use the word crazy anymore, but they have huge psychological disorders, and she's very upset. They said these hateful, So Elaine calls upset in a child state. She's nervous, she's anxious, she's sad. She might be crying because it was a real bad day. Now, when you talk from the child state, whenever words come out of your mouth from your child state, to whomever you're speaking, you're talking as a child, and children only talk to one ego state. Who do they talk to? What do you think? They only talk to parent. Children, in that moment, want to talk to parent. Now, sorry. I'm thinking more than I'm saying to slow down. In the moment she says that, she's talking to a parent because she wants to be what? Nurtured. Does she want to be critiqued and slammed? Get over it. Well, you think your day was bad. Right? That's discounting. That's responding as a critical parent. And that's not at all what she wants. She wants a nurturing parent. So when she said that to me, she wants me to be a nurturing parent to go back to her and say, I'm so sorry, baby, tell me more. I'm so sorry. I hope tonight we'll snuggle, we'll make it better, we'll give you Hershey's chocolate, we'll drug you up. Not really, whatever. And that moment, well, many arguments start from here in simple phone calls because you're already fired up when you get that phone. And what you really want subconsciously, now I'm telling you we do it, you get conscious of it, subconsciously what you want is a nurturing parent. And when you do not get it, it makes you upset. Because the only thing she wants in response is a nurturing parent. If I criticize her, that would hurt her feelings or make her angry. Well, don't fuss at me. Look at my day. My day was horrible. So she wanted this, but then I respond back as a child. But what I want also is a nurturing parent, and we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Now listen, in that moment when Elaine calls or I call her, that is what she wants, and that is what I want. That's my desire. Back to desires. Is it Elaine's responsibility to make sure I feel better? Maybe you don't believe this yet, but think like a healthy boundary person. The answer is, no, it is not. When Elaine calls me upset, is it my job? Is it my moral responsibility to stop what I'm doing and make sure she gets cheered up? Absolutely not. It is not my job. We are not conjoined twins. We're Velcroed. Elaine's job is to process her own feelings, her own sadness, her own anxiety from the day in every way that's healthy, process the pain, and get over it. Now, because I'm married to her and I love her, I want to help. That's the treat. I want to help her, but I'm not responsible for her feeling better. Now, here's where a lot of arguments happen. A lot happen in marriages where Elaine doesn't see it that way. Elaine thinks it's my job to make sure she feels better. You never listen to me when I call. You never defend me in front of your mom. And they're mad at him, they resent him. And that's because they have profoundly confused the need and the treat. They've confused it. So, some people can't handle that. They don't have the ability to nurture it. Oh, I'm sorry, honey, well, what's for dinner? Well, then your feelings get hurt because they didn't respond the way you wanted. So you learn, well, I'll never bring that up again. Or even healthier, you sit down and talk to them. There are times when I try to open up to you about these things, and you respond with things like, what's for dinner? Or you try to fix it right away. But you're not fixing it, you make it worse. Now, it's my responsibility, honey, to deal with my own feelings, and I claim responsibility. It's fully my own. But in a marriage, it would mean a lot to me if you wouldn't try to fix it or try to tell me how to get over it, but you'd be there with me in my sadness or anxiety or pain and help me come out of the dark valley, not tell me how to jump out of it. What do you think about that, honey? Bob says, give me a beer. No, Bob says, he might say, what did you just say? You've been talking to a therapist. Again, you name your desires. He doesn't have to meet them, but you name them and you own they're in you. If you don't name and own it, you will implicitly resent him or her. Well, no, most of us, for y'all, it's he. You'll resent him, and that's not fair to him. It's not fair to resent him for not meeting one of your desires, especially when you didn't even ask him to meet it. You haven't even communicated that to him. And secondly, it's still not his job to meet it. So the two most common problems in communication are these. One is when a spouse is the critical parent to child. That's where one spouse criticizes, judges, or seeks to control the other spouse. In return, the child rebels against the critical parent by either throwing tantrums or being passive-aggressive. Not paying the bills, not picking up the kids, being late, leaving the junk on the floor. They're passive-aggressive. It's the kid that says, I'll show you. I've met so many couples. I'll talk to the woman who never, the kids, don't give them candy. Don't do all that. She leaves the room, the guy goes, here you go, honey, I'll give whatever you want. I've seen that so many times. It is textbook critical parent-child. It's passive-aggressive. Because he didn't have the guts to stand up to her and say, please don't talk to me that way. I'm not your child. Let's discuss whether or not it's appropriate to give our children the candy and how much to give them. But since he can't do that, or doesn't want to, but usually don't have the skill set to do it, and she doesn't have the skill set to say, honey, let's negotiate when to give these kids candy. Instead, it's easier in what they know just to boss them around, which he's probably done from the very beginning, and then his response is to rebel. It's the number one thing in communication. If I had one, it's the number one problem in spousal communication. And almost always, who do you think the critical parent is? It's the wife. Almost always. I'd say 95% of the time, the wife is the one. And of course, he calls her a nag. Other words, nag. Yeah. In counseling, he sure does. When he's not the church open, that's right. But in his counseling, he does call those names. Nag. In other words, that's right. And he, of course, and she'll call him the child, or the immature baby, the irresponsible,
Peter Pan.
The Peter Pan. And that's the script too. The script is called Peter Pan. That is when they never want to grow up. They want to stay in the child state all the time.
Confuses what's expected.
Yeah, confuses the children on how to treat the parent. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then children see that almost always the dad, and then they play at home. They play house at home where the guy's job. Now on top of that, and I'll move on, look at TV shows. Almost every TV show, the man is an inept, loser, irresponsible doofus, and the woman is the wise sage who has to ride him all the time. Honey, you know what I said? It used to not be that way, but now TV shows, that's the way it is. It's just the guy is the inept moron who's a child, who's irresponsible. The second most common is passive-aggressive. And that's where both parties don't communicate. You should have known what I was feeling. You should have known what I was doing. And you don't communicate, you just seek to punish by turning them out, whatever, or doing the opposite or checking out. You do the opposite. I knew a couple, he was associate pastor, and they're very active in the church. And she, at church, in small groups, in big Sunday school classes, would publicly talk about how much he didn't satisfy her in bed. And they had about 4 kids. He wasn't very present at home. He didn't do a lot of stuff that he should have done. And she took any time she wanted to publicly embarrass him. It is terrible. It was, I thought, it was just so sad, but I've been speechless. You talk about passive-aggressive. And then he would kind of take it and he would say stuff about her whatever, well, I give myself to God alone or something, and versus, notice he was bypassing his parental duties because he would just hide behind, I'm good kingdom of God first. Not because he was serving the missionaries, he would just hide at church or whatever. But spouses do this kind of stuff. I've seen spouses, my grandfather when I was growing up, probably still does it. My grandmother wouldn't stop talking. She just talks all the time. And it probably still does. I haven't seen him in years, but he would turn out his hearing aids. He didn't want to hear it. He'd go, huh? Every once in a while, huh? She yap, 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 yap. Huh. I had to tell you some jokes, but they're not very, but anyway, some things he misheard that she said that were very funny. But they're just passive aggressive. They don't want to talk about it. So that's it. Either someone's nagging them or they just don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. I make a big distinction between arguing versus fighting. Now, I know in American English, those are basically synonymous. I like to make a technical distinction because I find it very helpful in therapeutic sessions. So the way I define it is this. Arguing is when two people have can be heated discussion concerning 2 points of view in order to come to a decision that both people will accept. They're trying to negotiate a contract. Both people get basically happy. Fighting is when two people are having a heated discussion that is no longer about the issue, but about winning. And so I'll ask couples all the time, and I'll define this, and I'll say, so let's say, for example, 0 to 10. 10 means you are all out, screaming, cussing, hollering, throwing knives, whatever. 0 means you're asleep. About to a 6 or 7 is arguing. Anything above that is you are fighting. Then I ask the couple, okay, do you ever fight? And some say, no, never. Some say, oh, yeah, we do. Okay, tell me one of those happened. Let's figure out why you got to that stage. And it also says something about a couple if they go there very quickly. Over long patterns of communication problems, of fighting, typically what happens is we escalate instantly. We go from a 2 or 3 to a 7 or 8 or 9. And it's because we have unresolved pain from the last time that never got validated, and we go right there for the jugular again. When you get to fighting stage about winning, you don't really care what you say. Your goal is to win. So which means if you're the winner or the other person is the losers, you set up a winner-loser situation where you want your spouse to bow in submission. You can say hateful things, you can call them names, you can cuss at them, you can bring up what your mom and daddy did, you can say you're just like this is like 12 years ago, you can go on and on and on about stuff because the goal is to win. You are no longer arguing. And some people are so bad at it with a rage issue, they do have a technical sense of blacking out. They don't remember all the stuff they said because they have real rage issues. Your dad was that way?
Still is.
Still is.
At 84.
At 84.
Petrifies me. I try to be around. Have to calm
That's that's a good point and good example. There are some people who don't want to argue, they want to fight. That's exactly right. For a variety of reasons. Some people were only modeled fighting as a child. Parents didn't. They either never talked, that's the passive aggressive, or there was nagging, or when they disagreed, it was full-on fight. So they think communication is you fight a lot. And that's right, some people do that. Some people fight because they're so insecure that their voice will never be heard that they escalate right away. And that's some people, they yell and they scream, they throw stuff and they bang the table. Sometimes they're so scared on the inside that they won't be heard that they escalate so quickly. I'll get there before you do, you'll have to hear me. Sometimes they're just ignorant about not having the tools. They don't know what it is. Some people are addicted to the feeling that adrenaline pumps out when you're in rage mode. The brain fires off a lot of it, and that when you calm down, that kind of, that's why the whole anecdote is you have, your best sex in marriage after the fight, the makeup sex they call it. That's because the chemicals have gone on in the rage part. The anger has been rah, and once that calms down, you're kind of on it, it's euphoric. You're on a high. I'm not saying that's a scientific thing of that it really is better intercourse, but I'm saying that's why that comes from, that rage issue. And some people get addicted to that sense of, but there's all kinds of rage issue. But you're right, not everyone wants to do it. You can try just to argue, stay on topic, do your best, and some people just want to go there over and over. That's right, and you said it perfectly. You can't make them do that, and you can't.
You just have to try to communicate this.
That's right. You have to communicate what it is you're trying to communicate, your own needs or desires. You do your own communication. Remember, because of boundaries, you're not responsible for their fighting and their rage issues. You're not responsible for that. But you don't have to be around it either. You can leave the room. Okay, well, you can keep screaming all you want. Sometimes you have to, Sometimes you're stuck in the car. But you make up your mind later on, I'm not going to ride with you because you lose control. So in spousal relationships, I encourage you to argue. I knew a young couple when they first got married. How y'all doing? I think Elaine said, do y'all ever argue? No, she said. We love each other way too much. Bless their heart. That's very unhealthy. If you do not ever argue, it means you're codependent or you're very bad at communication. Neither one of those are healthy. Arguing demonstrates that you're two individuals who have sometimes different views on things. And since you have different views on stuff about needs, or hopefully not too many needs difference, but certain desires or the treats, you're going to disagree on that. Sometimes you might have different political views, religious views, whatever. Well, arguing means you're going to have sometimes a heated discussion about stuff. That's because you have a self. You have a self. He or she has a self. And selves don't always think the same, and that's good. God didn't make you to be the other person. So if you never argue, that means something. I tell couples all the time, if you don't ever argue, ever, that means something. Now, Dave, wait a second. We've been married for 58 years. That's why I never argue, because we already know the other person. I get it, I understand. But in general, if couples don't ever argue, in general, right? Not saying, Elaine and I hardly ever argue. Really, we hardly ever argue. We've had arguments. We've had arguments in our 17 years of marriage. She's not here. Is that right, 17? We've had arguments, but in general, we don't argue. But we've worked really, 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 really hard at this stuff on communication. But again, I can point to arguments we've had, which demonstrates it's healthy. And in the future, I'm not scared of having an argument. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So I'm not encouraging you to go pick a fight or an argument, saying that don't be scared of them, don't be scared. And there you go. Now what do? I'm going to go there pretty quickly and then ask questions. Here are some tips to establish and maintain boundaries in marriage. I love how Clown Townsend do this here. Admit there's a problem. If you have a boundary problem, admit it. Unfair spending, disciplining the children. And of course, sex. You cannot wish away problems. You've got to admit there's a problem. For a lot of people, this is the most difficult step. It's very, very difficult to admit it. I'm telling you, I'm trying to encourage you, sisters and brother, there's a lot of healing that comes with admitting there's a problem. Identify the specific boundary problem. Number 2, identify the specific boundary problem. What boundary of yours is being violated? Now remember, boundaries are not ways to control others, it's the opposite. So a boundary doesn't mean they're trying to control you. They need to respect your no. You're not interested in telling or making the other person change. But what's being violated? Now, if it's being violated, that's number 3. Take full responsibility for what you contribute to the relationship problem. If Elaine is violating my boundary I have a boundary of don't hit me. In our home, we have 0 tolerance for physical or even the threat of physical violence. 0 tolerance. My children even when they were younger, I'll get you or I'll beat you up, or they put their fist up, right away they're in trouble. There's 0 tolerance. I don't do a warning, it's 0 tolerance. And I'll tell them, even when they were little, kneel down. We do not ever express anger that way. You don't bite, you don't hit, you don't kick. We tell the person how we feel. So I always told them how to do it, but I have 0 tolerance. Same thing in my marriage. Let's say for a second she started hitting me. God help her and me. And she violated my boundary. Well, my boundary has been clear because I've told her. But if she hits me and I don't say anything about it for a while, let it kind of fester, and a month goes on, 2 months goes on, I'm to blame for not communicating my needs, or I'm communicating my boundary. Maybe she forgot, maybe she blacked out, maybe she had a concussion, whatever. It was my job the first time she did it to say, hold on, time out. You do not have permission to ever hit me again, ever. You do not have permission to do that. And I would like for you to apologize. And I'm going to wait until I hear an answer. And if she said, well, you understand? I don't understand. Do you understand what I just said? Well, it's your fault. Nope. You do not ever have permission to hit me again. Do you understand what I'm saying? I need you to acknowledge what I just said. Can you repeat back what I just said? Well, come on, we're going to be late for dinner. Nope. Can you acknowledge? You see what I'm saying? I'm not moving. It's my job to communicate that. So it's my fault if months went by or years went by to own how I should have told the person how I felt. It's not my fault that she hit me. I'm being very as clear as I can be. It's my fault for not communicating how the hitting was violating my boundaries. Okay, but I own that. So let's say my analogy, I waited 3 months. I would say, Elaine, it's completely my fault for not telling you these last 3 months you shouldn't have been hitting me. Completely my fault. I take full responsibility for not telling you. From now on, I'm telling you now, you don't have permission to hit me. Do you see that? So I'm not going, you've always been, and I resent you, and I want to hit you back. No. So now, how am I contributing to the problem, if at all? At minimum, did I do a good job of communicating it? And so you name it. You name it. Number 4, discover the origins of the conflict. Why have you let this person violate this boundary for this long? And I'm telling you, sisters and brother, what need are you trying to get met? Is there something in your past that isn't resolved, especially from childhood? We do things, we allow patterns to take place because it meets one of our emotional needs, at least one. And you say, Dave, wait a second. When I'm a child and I was hurt by so-and-so, what possible need did I have? Survival. You put up with it because you had to survive. That was a need you had. And that's the need you should have protected because you were a child, and children need to have and survival. And then what happens later on when we get in age is we stay, if we're not careful and not going through therapy, we stay in survival mode forever. We stay in it forever. I've known many couples who adopted someone a little bit later on in life, and they can't seem to snap out of the mode they were in for several years. And it's for this same thing. They just can't snap out of it for a long time. So it happens in life sometime, but I'm saying now as an adult, as we're looking back on our lives, if there's a pattern we're going through right now, why did I let Elaine hit me for 3 months? Why was that okay with me? I ask people all the time, he took advantage of me for years. He took all my money. My question always, I said, I mean this in due love, but why did you let him? Why do you think so lowly of yourself you thought that was ever appropriate? Well, he didn't. No, I'm not talking about him right now. Why did you do that? Why did you let him take advantage when you knew, you already told me you thought it was wrong, yeah, but then why put up with it? It's because I have a lower self-esteem, and they can get healing on that. So try to figure out what need you're getting met that tolerates the boundary violation. There's probably maybe several things, but let me say this one more time because I'm never, ever trying to be discouraging. People can go through legitimate things in life where we learned it the wrong way. Then we grow up and we keep practicing the wrong way to do it. So just because you were trying to get a need met, like survival, doesn't mean you're a bad person, doesn't mean you've done it wrong. It just means you were getting a need met. So why did I put up with that abusive husband? Because that's all I knew. And my need was acceptance and love, and if I had to get horrible muddy water, I'd get some muddy water versus no water at all, because that's all I know. My point is, let's just name what the need is. That's all I'm saying. So needs aren't all bad. It just means you're trying to get them met, and that helps you start the healing process, because you want to get those needs met in a healthy way, in a healthy relationship. Number 5, usually have a trusted same-gender, if you can, person or support group from which you can gain support and encouragement. If you have bad problems in your marriage, talk to someone else and get support. Tell your buddy, I'm about to start taking some baby steps with my wife. I'm going to start saying no, and I'm nervous. I'm going to start telling Bob he can't do that anymore. I'm a nervous wreck. I can't stop spinning my foot. I can't stop. I was just messing with you, Lisa. You weren't even. I was messing with you. You're spinning. So I need your help. I need your support, because when Bob comes tonight, I'm going to say no, and man, I'm nervous. So help me role play this one more time. Is this the right thing to do? Get that support. Get that support from someone who can be there, and then call them afterwards, and they can tell, how did it go? I said it, but I was a nervous wreck. I'm not nervous, but you said it. Way to go, high five. And you might need a whole support group for that, like here, or Boundaries Anonymous, or whatever. There's all kinds, or a therapist, or a counselor. 6, practice the baby ones, especially with safe people. Find a person you really don't think will abandon you if you say no. Like I told you, my friend I did, when I was teasing my friend, it's the same friend with him. When I said, would you pray in front of everybody? Now, I know he doesn't want to do it, but I'm safe. And I was trying to help him say, you can say no, and my relationship, not in the least bit, is going to be affected if you say no to me. So I threw out something I knew he didn't want to do. But because I'm safe. I'm safe. So find people you can be safe with and say, no, thank you. And they go, okay. And just revel in that for a second. They didn't cuss me out. They didn't throw a knife in my head. They just go, it'll help you feel, kind of get those muscles working. And 7, say no to the bad in your marriage. So first, reinforce that you're committed to the relationship, to your spouse, and then state clearly what the change will be. Let that sink in. So if you're having this talk with your spouse about something that's going to stop, I'm committed to the relationship. In fact, I would say it this way, because I'm committed to the relationship, this has to stop. This will change. And you communicate clearly that you will no longer tolerate the boundary violation. This is not about making the other person change. It's about how you will be changing. I've never heard this done right in a marriage counseling situation until I help them. I always ask, Greg, how does it make you feel that she does that? Well, the problem is she blah, blah, blah. Okay, try again. How does it make you feel? Well, if she would just, hold on a second. So Greg, how does it make you feel that she, well, the problem is if she would just, this happens 100% of the time. And I go, Greg, do you sense, they haven't done this. I'm just using them because they're married and they're here. I do Elaine, but this is hypothetical. I'm sure this never happens in your marriage. But in a counseling, then I would say something like this. Greg, do you notice that when I ask you how you feel, the first thing out of your mouth is what she needs to do to change? And I'm telling you, there are people who cannot even see it. Well, if she would just, yeah, buddy, do you see how when I ask how you feel, you tell me what she needs to change to fix it? Some people it takes a long time for it to click. But when it clicks, then there's great healing. And most of the time the guy doesn't know what the word feeling means. They go, I don't know how I feel. Well, think about it. You have to use the word think about it because they don't think that way. Think about how you feel. And some guys, well, yeah, I understand. No, well, how'd you feel? Well, whatever. So I have to give them examples. Are you happy that she does that? No, I'm not happy. Are you sad? Yeah, it's not a big deal. If she would just hold on a second. You see, the drive to change the other person so that you feel better is absolutely a boundary problem. And it shows you're immature and you're not taking responsibility for your own emotional state. But spouses do this every day. So here's some examples of using boundaries correctly in a relationship. These are kind of extreme, but this is what happens in the real world. I'm sorry if you're not exposed to these things. I am, as a pastor and counselor. These are real world examples. Before boundaries, you've just got to stop drinking. I've told you over and over again, it's ruining our family. What kind of man are you? You're wrecking our lives. That's not healthy. After using the boundaries class, you would say something like this. You may choose not to deal with your drinking if you want. However, I will not continue to expose myself and the children to this chaos. The next time you're drunk, we will go to a friend's for the night, and we will tell them why we're there. I am extremely angry that you refuse to make healthy changes that affect us all. Your drinking is your choice. What I will put up with is mine. It's not a threat. It's a guarantee future cast. It's a meteorologist, but better, because you control it. I'm just letting you know, the very next time you do X, I will do Y. Just letting you know, heads up. With a smile on your face. No drama, I didn't throw anything, I didn't scream, I didn't cuss, I didn't bring up his mama. This is what's going to happen. Some people can't do this right off the bat. So if they role play with people like me and say, what if he says this, and and we role play, and I'll say, all right, I'll be you in an ideal situation, and you be the alcoholic. You be the person you're scared of, and I'll be you. And sometimes I even record it for them, or they'll put their phone and record it to practice over and over. I've done this many, many, many times. People at work relationships. How do I tell my boss? One guy whose boss was his dad. And man, oh my goodness, the dysfunction. Now they're so much, 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 much better. But they had to practice that. Notice how she's not trying to fix him. You got to go to AA. Here's what's going to happen. If you don't blah, blah, then I'll tell you what. Nope. That's up to you to deal with it. If you don't deal with your drinking, I will get very, very sad. You won't make me sad. I will be very sad, and I'll be angry that you are not choosing to take responsibility for your alcoholism. Because not taking responsibility for whatever, alcohol, drugs, whatever, it influences us and hurts the children and hurts our relationship, and you are diminishing our relationship. I feel less bonded, I feel less connected because you won't stop. I hope you will stop, and I do want you to stop. But if you don't, that's up to you. I will process my own feelings. I'll go to therapy, I'll take the kids to therapy, but I won't be exposed to you anymore. And if you don't stop at all, it will absolutely take us to a divorce. I will not expose myself to this kind of stuff anymore. You understand, honey? You see how it's a matter of fact, X, if you do X or don't do X, here's what will happen. And you can't bluff. Just like you're talking to children. If you don't clean up your toys, you're not going to your friend's birthday party. Well, they go and pitch a fit. I guarantee you the alcoholic's going to pitch a fit. Guarantee it. Push those buttons. Come on, baby, it's not that bad. Or who do you think you're blah, 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 blah. This is exactly why you don't come out of the gate with this until you're ready. You've already got your trusted friend. You've got your support group. You've done the role playing. You've got your tanks filled up. You're ready to go. And after that talk, you run off and call your friend. I did it. All right? You celebrate. It's a big deal. Here's another one. You're a pervert for looking at pornography. That's so degrading. What kind of sick person are you? Or, after boundaries, I will not choose to share you sexually with naked women in magazines or online. That's up to you. I will only sleep with someone who's interested in me and me alone, of course. Make your mind and choose. And I would say the same thing about alcoholism, any addiction, drug, I don't care what it is. You need to decide between your addiction or me. I'm not asking you to choose addiction right now, tonight, and get your whole immediately. I'm telling you, if you don't decide to get therapy for this, go to groups for it right now, and if you're not signed up by tomorrow, you give them real clear, strict guidelines, then this will have repercussions. I'm going to stay with my parents. We'll go through a separation phase. You get real. These are serious examples. It might be something even smaller than that, such as I make dinner all the time, and you're late, and I have it on the table at 6 o'clock, and you show up at 7:30, 8, you don't care. Here's what's going to happen. I'm not making dinner anymore until we get the schedule right, because it hurts my feelings, and I feel disrespected and discounted. I work hard to get it done, and I wait and wait and wait for this to happen. That won't happen anymore. So when the time comes where you can guarantee the schedule, I'll start making dinner again. But until then, I'll make dinner for me and the kids, and we'll eat without you. Just letting you know. I might leave some more in the microwave for you, leave in a bowl, but that's up to you. But calling names. Number 8, the last thing is this, what do we do now? We make a choice or a decision to forgive. That's what I preached on last week. Now, you might take a while to heal the wounds, but means you decide to forgive, means to choose to take the steps that will help you forgive. I said this in the sermon. You need to go online, listen to the sermon again, which is, I think, updated today or tomorrow. Matthew's going to do it today, but you make a decision to forgive. You say, I'm not going to resent you for those past offenses, but you've hurt me for years or months, or like Lane, you hit me for 3 months, and I'm hurt because of that. It's my responsibility if I not tell you, but it made me sad. I resent you some. Though it's my fault for not telling you, it's still in me, and I've got to process that. And I will process it, and it's not your job to fix my feelings. I'm going to go to counseling. I've already signed up. I've got these books on the library. I've got a friend I'm going to talk to, a guy friend, and I'll process my feelings. But I forgive you. I don't want you to be punished. I choose not to resent you forever. But it might take me a while to trust you some more, because every time I see you coming, I want to flinch. It might take a while for that to happen, because I've been wounded. Do you see the distinction? You can make that, and you might not be able to make forgiveness overnight. Jesus could. Well, good for him, but I'm not Jesus. He might be able to say, Father, forgive them. He's done, but I'm not the son, I'm not the God man. And sometimes it takes me a long time to get to the place where I say, okay, now I want to start trying to forgive you. I want to do it because I'm a Christian, but sometimes we're hurt so badly, it might take quite some time to get to the place where we're emotionally and psychologically ready to start that journey of forgiveness. I'm just saying, give yourself grace. It might take some time. And of course, divorce is not a boundary. It's the end of a marriage. I had really good boundaries. I dumped them. No, that's not boundary. You just ended the marriage. Don't think divorce is, that's a healthy boundary. No, it's over. You've done a good job. Any questions or comments from me?
No. Is that normal?
It is normal.
And what do you do about it?
Yeah. Based on what we've covered tonight, what do you think you ought to do? I'm not being cheesy, really. What do you think?
Okay.
If you had perfect, healthy boundaries, and he comes and I understand, I can visualize it. He seems irritable or grumpy or something's different, because we all can tell when someone we're married to, we can tell.
Yeah.
But he's not telling you what's up.
Yeah. And if I ask, nothing.
Okay. I think you're doing a good job. Well, several people are nodding when you're saying it, so believe me, I've been there. Of course, it's loving and kind for a spouse to care that the spouse is upset about something. If they didn't care at all, that'd be weird. I mean, I would say, why? In counseling, I would say, and I've done this by the way, Do you care at all that your spouse is crying or upset? Well, I don't care. That's weird too. If you didn't care at all, why even married? I mean, marriage, they're Velcroed, right? Idea is, you do care. I don't want Elaine to be upset, like, oh, I'm so glad she's upset, right? It makes me happy. And I'm not indifferent because I do love her or whatever. Here's the distinction. The distinction is now, do you feel emotionally responsible for cheering him up? Do you feel emotionally responsible for him being able to process the pain or anger or frustration, whatever he feels? If you feel a little compulsive desire to keep checking, dancing a little bit, I'll make your favorite pie. If you feel a little need to dance, a little need of compulsive, that's your boundary problem.
Yeah, I don't.
If you don't do that, then you're fine. If you have that problem, mentally, one little tip is to say, if you find yourself wanting to do that, and I've done that before, and sometimes in other relationships through the years, because of the way my mom taught me how to live life, which is unfortunate in some areas. And so what I would tell myself is, when I feel that compulsive need, is I say, I'm not responsible for, I would say it over and over, I'm not responsible for his feelings. I'm not responsible. I hope he feels better. I hope he gets over it, but I'm not responsible. He said nothing's wrong. Well, probably something is, but that's what he said. I'm going to take him at his word. And a lot of times, not always, a lot of times when guys say that, this is pretty sexist, but it's true in my experience and also being a guy, it means it's nothing worth bringing up because it's not even worth a conversation. Especially when a guy has a boundary problem because he doesn't want you to be upset. Now, that's where that becomes unhealthy, because that's a boundary problem on his part. Nothing, if they mean that, that means they're they're taking responsibility for your feelings. Well, I don't want to make you upset. Why didn't you tell me you maxed out the visa? Well, because it's right here. I don't want to make you upset. Of course I'm upset, dummy. You've maxed out the visa, and it's worse because you kept it a secret. This is why I didn't want to tell you. That's boundary problem. So if you just care, that's one thing, that's healthy. If any of us ever feel a compulsive need to dig up, come on now, I know something's wrong. Come on, open up to mama. What? I'm not your, open up to me. That's where you're taking too much responsibility. So what do? Nothing. You keep being yourself.
Yeah.
You're not responsible for making sure he comes out of his shell, that he says a word, that he cheers up. You're not responsible for it. Do you have an emotional response? Sure, and just own it. On the inside, I feel sad that he's upset. Okay, well, I want to read my book again. In other words, you acknowledge it, but then move on with life. But if you can't move on, and you find nagging in the back of your head, I've got to figure out what's wrong. Something's bothering him. I got to get it. That's a boundary problem. Doesn't mean you're crazy. Doesn't mean you hate that's a boundary problem. That makes sense. Yes, ma'am, please.
Say our insecurity is not our best friend.
Insecurity is not our best friend. It's not our best friend. It's not. You're right. Too many times we make decisions based on insecurity.